Hello, welcome to this next installment of our cardiology series called Blocks and Beyond. In this installment, we are talking heart blocks and PEA. To start, let's review our morphology of a ECG. So we got start, we have our isometric line, that is the line in which our rhythm is going to exist. And then we have P wave. P wave falls into our QRS complex, and then we have a T wave. P wave is going to be that depolarization of the atria. QRS complex is going to be the depolarization of the ventricles. Repolarization of the atria is going to be lost somewhere in this large complex, typically. And then you're going to see the repolarization of the ventricles right here with our T wave. When we're talking blocks, what becomes very important is our PRI. And what that is measuring is the depolarization of our ventricles to the very beginning of the ventricles depolarization. So the amount of time it takes from a stimulus to originate in the atria, travel down to the ventricles, and begin depolarizing. That's what we're measuring. So normal is going to be 0.2 seconds or 5 small boxes. Less than or equal to 0.2 seconds or 5 small boxes, sorry. So I know these lines are not exactly the same as your ECG paper, but for demonstrative purposes, let's act like they are here. So we got a box, a box, a box, a box. So I have the very beginning of this P wave to the very beginning of this QRS complex. So let's start. We got 1, 2, and then I got about a half box, and then probably another half here. So we'd call it around 3 boxes. That's normal. Here we have, starting here to here, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, about 7.5 boxes. So that's what's referred to as prolonged. Why is this pertinent? Well, this feeds right into our first block, which is the least severe, and it's called our first degree heart block. First degree heart block is not a rhythm in itself. It exists on top of or alongside another rhythm. And it has a consistent PRI that is prolonged. So it's going to be greater than 0.2 seconds or greater than 5 boxes. So let's count here. We got beginning to beginning. I know it's very blurry, but let's do the best we can here, all right? So we got 1 box, 2 box, 3 box, 4 box, 5 box, 6 box, 7. So we got 7. And is that the same here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Roughly. Looks like maybe a little longer. How about here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 on the dot, on the money. So as you can see here, we have a pretty consistent PRI and is long, and it exists inside of another rhythm. So this is a sinus rhythm. I can tell that because the P waves are round, they're relatively upright, and they're consistent. And so that's our first heart block. You have learned your first heart block, which is your first degree heart block. Let's move on down to our second degree. Second degree has 2 different types, and we're going to start with number 1, which is referred to as the Winkie-Bach. You could say second degree type 1, you could say Winkie-Bach, whatever. They're the same, one and the same. What you're having here is its own rhythm. So a second degree heart block, both types are going to be their own rhythm in their own right. It's going to have an irregular R to R interval. What that means is the peak of our R wave to the peak of a next R wave is going to be different. So from here to here to here, it's the same. But here to here versus here to here, that's different. And then it moves back into that repeating pattern. So this is a relatively bradycardic rhythm. We have a lengthening PRI with a dropped QRS complex. That's what's causing that irregular R to R interval. Think going, 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 gone. It doesn't have to be 3 or 2. You know, it's the premise of long PRI, longer PRI, consistently prolonging until you have a dropped QRS complex. So here, I've got it counted out here. We got 5-box PRI, 7-box PRI, 8.5-box PRI, dropped. So here we got our P wave, and then there's no QRS. That means it's just the atria depolarizing, and it fails to depolarize that QRS. It's not there, it's missing. And then it resets and it repeats. So we got, all right, well, let's try that again. Then it's going to be long, longer, longest, and then I'm assuming it would drop. So that is our second degree type 1, referred to as the Winky block. Second degree type 2 is referred to as the Mobitz block. It is also a bradycardic rhythm and a rhythm in its own right. What is happening here is we are going to have irregular R to R intervals, most likely. It can be regular, but more than likely it's going to be irregular. So meaning the difference between this R wave and this R wave is probably different than this one to this one versus this one to this one. It's inconsistent. I tell you what is consistent, though, is the PRI. 4.5 boxes, 4.5 boxes, 4.5 boxes, 4.5 boxes. Now you'll notice, though, that there are numerous PRIs without a QRS complex, though. Well, sorry, I'm just circling P waves now at this point, but this one doesn't have a complex, this doesn't have a complex, this doesn't have a complex. So we have a mismatch. This block is becoming more severe. So here we had one P wave without a QRS when that beat drops. But here that happens more frequently. You know, it's happening relatively regularly within this strip. So there are more P waves than QRS complexes. When I do have a QRS complex, and there is a relationship between the P wave and the QRS, I have a consistent PRI. And again, this is a bradycardic rhythm in nature. Moving on down the line. So far we got first degree heart block, which is going to be a rhythm that has a long PRI, meaning greater than 5 boxes or 0.2 seconds. We have the second degree type 1, going, going, gone. We have the second degree type 2, which is going to be a consistent PRI, but I'm going to have more P waves than I have QRS complexes, and an irregular rhythm. Let's talk PEA really quick. You'd think I'd move on to third, but I did PEA first, so we'll get to third in a moment. But PEA is really pretty simple. It's any organized rhythm without a pulse. So just because you see a rhythm on the monitor does not mean that they actually have a pulse. You need to physically touch a pulse point, and do you have one or do you not? If you do not, amidst a structured electrical stimulus on that ECG, that's PEA. So for example, I have a rhythm drawn out here. I got a P wave, QRS, T, P wave, QRS, T. This is a sinus rhythm, but if they have no pulse, that's PEA. Here, I have QRS, T, QRS, T, QRS, T. I have no P waves, which makes it a junctional rhythm, but if they have no pulse, it's PEA. So that's kind of its own thing, but I wanted to tag it in here. There's really no good place for it to fit in this series, so I just tagged it in here. If you guys have any questions or comments about any of these, please reach out. So let's move on to third degree, which is our most severe form of heart block, and it is sometimes referred to as a complete heart block. What's going on here is there's a complete mismatch. There is no synchronicity between the P waves and the QRS. The atria and the ventricles are not communicating with each other. They each are having their own stimuluses originating, and they are not married to one another. There's no relationship. So we have P waves without QRSs, and we have wildly inaccurate PRI. So, I mean, what is this? This is the distance between here and here is different from here and here, which is different from here and here. It's just wildly chaotic. But I tell you what isn't chaotic is the interval from P wave to P wave and QRS to QRS. Those are actually fairly regular. They're just not synced up with one another. So the distance between here and here is going to be the same as here to here, here to here, here to here, and the distance from my R wave to my R wave is going to be the same with this R wave as well. So this is a complete heart block. There's zero relationship between PR waves and QRS complexes. The P wave interval will be consistent with each other, and the QRS complexes will be consistent with one another as well. This is a bradycardic rhythm, a lot of times in the 30s, 20s, 40s, slow. And just remember, your PRI will be chaotic and irregular. That's blocks and beyond. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns about anything that was said or discussed, please do not hesitate to reach out. Thank you guys for listening and watching.